I wanted to do as much as I could and for as cheap as possible. So we hardly spent any money to get this project up and off the ground. And it's been fun because there's all kinds of things that, hobbies of mine like photography and just sketching cartoons and stuff that I got to weave into this project.
Welcome to Invention Stories on YouTube. My name is Robert Baer, and today our interview is with Tony Litwinowicz about his invention, the HairFin. This interview was previously shared on the Invention Stories podcast, September 1st, 2020. We have Tony Litwinowicz on the line from Derby, Connecticut, so let's get started. Welcome, Tony. It's great to have you with us today, and you have 11 letters in your last name, Litwinowicz. And if I tried to guess how to spell it correctly right now, I probably wouldn't spell it right. So,
when you were in school, did any of the teachers ever get it right the first time?
Sometimes. If you take your time with it, you can figure it out. But a lot of people like to add a ski to the end of it. They just see a Polish name and they figure there's got to be a ski in there somewhere.
Right on. Good deal, Tony. All right, take it away.
Hey, I'm Tony, and this is my invention story. My invention is the HairFin. It's a hair length guide that lets you hold your hair in place for trimming while measuring it at the same time. The guide can be mounted between your fingers such that you have a fin extending below the palm of your hand. And that fin is what keeps your hand at the right distance from your head for a perfect haircut every time. The fin shape also stays out of the way while you grasp your hair at the base with your fingers. And then as you rock your palm so that your hand is parallel to your head, the guide just slides into place. Growing up, my mom cut my hair with her clippers. And when I went off to college, I started cutting my hair myself too. Soon, a lot of my friends were asking me to cut their hair too. Buzz cuts were easy, but longer haircut was always a struggle for me. A few years ago, I decided to grow my own hair out. And while it prompted some questions about whether I was becoming a hippie, I kind of liked having my hair a little bit longer. The only problem was, even with my wife's help, it was tough getting an even haircut. Just trying to get one side of my head to be the same length as the other side, would take a few days just to do that. Hair clipper combs are great for short haircuts, but they only go up to about an inch. I wanted to be able to cut my hair 2, 3, even 4 inches long. And cutting hair freehand is a skill that hairdressers possess, and we do not. What I needed was a way to cheat, some kind of measuring tool that would let me know how long to cut. And that's when I had the idea for the HairFin. When I thought of the idea, I figured this is so simple that somebody had to have already come up with it. So I started Googling, and I couldn't find anything like it. So I started making a few prototypes for myself, and I was surprised at how easy it was to use and how effective it was. Since it worked so well for me, I figured other home hair cutters could also find it useful. And that's what it compelled me to bring this invention to the market. The prototype processing started out with me trying to bungle it together with some household materials. And that didn't work out very well for me, so I ordered a 3D printer. You can get them now for only $200. And I got a free copy of the Fusion 360 CAD software. That was a game changer. I could make small adjustments to the design in CAD, and then a day later, have a 3D printed out prototype of a new HairFin to try out. I did dozens of iterations this way, constantly tweaking the shape, the feel of the grip, and always, getting feedback from friends and family until I had a solid design. Of course, it also had to look cool. So this was my art project of the winter. And, I made sure that it had a nice wave design in the logo. And some of that is inspired from my surfing trips down to Costa Rica. The HairFin is patent pending, and we are filing a trademark as well. Pretty much anybody can file a provisional patent for $70 on the USPTO website, and they have some great resources on how to do it. From the start, I knew that I wanted to manufacture this in the USA. The environmental aspects of shipping overseas and the economic aspect of being able to create local jobs were really important to me. And the truth is, now that we've done it, I don't know that we really could have done it much cheaper abroad. Yes, there are a lot of manufacturers in the US that are very expensive, and I did get some really ridiculously high quotes, but we didn't give up there. The key for me was finding a small guide. Tooling shops that support bigger outfits in the US, they're harder to find, and they might not get back to you right away. And that's because many times one of these guys is the sales rep, head machinist, janitor, and owner of the company all wrapped up in one. But these companies are looking to grow, and they'll probably give you a better deal. I ended up finding a small tooling company located in my hometown here in Connecticut, and making our product locally paid off in so many ways, especially during the pandemic. I got to be involved in the whole process, and the quality came out top notch. I also got to make some new friends in the process. So right now, the HairFin is being sold as a kit, and that includes a 2-inch, 3-inch, and 4-inch hair cutting guide, and it's on Amazon. You can find it at the link through our website, www.hairfin.com. That's HAIRFIN.com. As far as what I would recommend for inventors to spend their time and energy on and what they should avoid, I would say you got to concentrate on one thing at a time. This is a long, drawn-out process with a lot of complicated pieces, and it can be very overwhelming, especially if you're trying to do it all by yourself. What I recommend is making a list of the steps you have to go through and then concentrating on one at a time. You can't afford to spin your wheels worrying about everything all at once. For me, those main steps were: 1, get a design prototype that I'm happy with. That means a final design, prototypes that I can send out to manufacturers, a name for the product, and purchasing the domain name for it. Once I had all of that stuff ready, then the second step was filing a provisional patent. That basically I was able to do by myself for $70. Anybody can go to the USPTO. They have great resources on how to do it. And at this point, you have a design pinned down, so coming up with a provisional patent should be pretty easy. The third step for me was getting a business set up and in order. That meant incorporating with the state, doing the tax registrations, getting a company website set up, and basically you want to get as professional looking as you can before reaching out to manufacturers. The fourth step for me was finding a manufacturer. And a surprisingly good tool for me was Google Maps. Once you find a big manufacturer, you can try looking for small tooling companies nearby. If you can't find anybody that's a manufacturer near you, try other states, like Connecticut. When you approach manufacturers, you want to have an NDA ready, and you should look professional. It takes a lot of engineering time and dollars just to quote you, and they don't want to waste their resources. Number 5, once you have a product or at least some samples, get your Amazon account going. That means that you need to get UPC code, product liability insurance, finalize packaging, and make sure you read up on the Amazon rules. It took us just a month alone just to get the product up and listed on Amazon. And then step number 6, you'd think that once you're done manufacturing that everybody's just going to buy your product like crazy and you're going to be done, you're going to be rich. Well, it's easy to think you're done, but now you have to market and sell it. If nobody knows what your product is, nobody's going to buy it. That means making videos, writing articles, going on really cool podcasts. And that's the point that we're at right now in our invention. And to be honest, if I hadn't compartmentalized all of these pieces, then I don't think I would have gotten to this point right now. As far as advice that I would give to an inventor, I would say, you can't just come up with an invention. You have to come up with a business. If you want to bring this to market, you need to make sure that your numbers are going to work. If you can't sit down and say to yourself, we're going to make a killing off of this, then you need to get back to the drawing board. Start to think about how easily can this be manufactured. I started researching plastic injection molding, and I ended up redesigning our product so that it would be easier to manufacture that way. Surprisingly, the new design also worked out better for me to use. And remember what I said about asking manufacturers for feedback? When I got my first rejection from a manufacturer, I drew up half a dozen questions. Since they already knew about my product, I asked them, how can I improve? One of their answers was, make less fins. The original kit I had too many. We had 5, and I narrowed it down to 3, eliminating the 2 largest sizes. They probably would have been the ones that were least used anyway. This cut our tooling costs in half, and it also made the whole project a lot simpler for the manufacturer that we ended up going with. Another thing to do is do your market research. Tools like Jungle Scout, which I learned about from this podcast, let you see how many sales are happening for existing products. When we put down the money for the most expensive part of this project, which was the tooling, we knew that we had the product optimized to be as cheap as possible, and we also had a good idea of whether or not there would be a market for our product. If you'd like to reach out to me, I blog over at mrcrazykicks.com, and we have the website hairfin.com for this invention. You can contact me through the contact pages of either of those websites, and I'm also on LinkedIn, which has been a great resource for finding and connecting with other inventors. So you can reach out to me there as well.
On your bio, it says that you have 11 patents. Is that from being an aerospace engineer at Sikorsky, just Lockheed Martin?
Yeah, I used to work on, research and development for new helicopters and the fly-by-wire system. So when you're working in research and development, you're kind of always coming up with a new patent because research and development of new stuff, if, it already exists, obviously. So I did that for a few years, but this is the first invention that I'm doing for myself and that I'm filing a patent for myself.
How'd you enjoy Costa Rica?
Costa Rica is awesome. Over the last few years, I've been going down there for the winters to go surfing. And we live in Connecticut, and the winters can get pretty cold up here. And I'm not really a cold weather person. So being able to slip down to Costa Rica for a few weeks during January and February to do some surfing is a lot of fun. And the food and the culture and the people down there, I just love. So it's been great.
Okay. Getting back to your product, did you consider licensing it or trying to obtain a licensing agreement?
I didn't start listening to the Invent Right podcast until I was partway through this. And maybe it's a good thing because I might have tried to license it first instead of bringing it to market. So yeah, licensing did come up, but this was a project where I thought if I broke it down piece by piece, I could do it myself. And that was something that I wanted to do, was to become the manufacturer and actually bring this product to market and try and start a business for myself, because that's something that I hadn't done before.
Have you identified any potential good partners?
Yeah, I would love to work with like a hair clipper or a hair trimmer company, because at the end of the day, the guide just lets you measure longer hair, but you still need to trim it. If I'm doing it myself, I like to use my beard trimmer because then I don't have to worry about cutting myself. And then, like I was saying before, hair clippers are wonderful for doing buzz cuts. But if you want to, have your hair, even just a little bit longer, 2 or 3 inches longer, you need something like our guide to be able to get you there so that you can cut it evenly without going freehand. So yeah, I think this would be a great product. I'd love to hear from a clipper company or a trimmer company to make a package deal. And we're ready for it because even with the pandemic, we're making this here in the United States. We've got thousands of units ready to go, and we can turn around thousands of units in a matter of days. So yeah, we're at that point where, yeah, we'd be happy to partner with people.
Okay. The one question that I had looking at it and everything, because you did send me a sample here, and I'm thinking like the very back of the hair, like how do you get that straight, or how do you get that looking good?
Well, for me, I cut my hair a perfect 4 inches all the way around. So I can actually reach back there with the guide and put it in place. And then once I've got my hair measured out, I can kind of bring my hand around the front so I can cut it. But we have the 2-inch and 3-inch guide. So I know a lot of people like having, a bit of a fade. So we have the 2-inch guide you can start with at the very bottom of the back of your neck, kind of cut the 2-inch and then move up to the 3-inch and the 4-inch. Obviously, the easiest thing is to have, cut somebody else's hair or have somebody else cut your hair with it. But I've found that I've been able to do it, myself with a beard trimmer and a mirror pretty easily. So.
Okay. And who's your target market? Is it parents or just do it yourselfers? People get tired of spending $20 to $150 for a haircut?
Yeah, I think I'm having trouble pinning that down because it's pretty broad, just people that are like middle age like me that like to be in the outdoors and care a little bit, but not too much about their hair and just want to have a nice even cut. For me, a 4-inch haircut is perfect. Keeps my neck and ears covered and keeps the hair out of my eyes while I'm surfing too. But I've also had friends who have used it to cut their toddler's hair. And one of the surprising things is, I didn't know this, but some kids are definitely afraid of clippers and don't even want their parents to bring scissors near their heads. And one of my friends said he couldn't get his 4-year-old to let him cut his hair until he broke out the HairFin. And the kid thought it was just so cool that he sat down right away for a haircut. I've also cut my mom's hair, and seeing some other, of our buyers are elderly people that want to cut their hair. So from kids to middle age to college kids, everybody needs a haircut. And not everybody wants their hair to be, 1 inch or shorter.
How about okay, you sort of expressed the marketing strategy that you have as far as blogging and you have the website but is there like a social media that you think would work best, or some sort of, have you considered like an influencer or something and sending them and trying them out?
Wow, you caught me at the point that I'm at right now. So that's what I'm trying to learn and figure out as much as I can right now. A lot of my friends that are big into business, that's what they've been telling me is I got to find the right influencers and invest some money in having an influencer promote our product. And I definitely think that's a good idea. It's something that we're trying to do. But, this whole thing has been a learning process for me. So hopefully a few months from now, I'll have some more answers for you on what works. But yeah, that's definitely part of our strategy is trying to find those influencers and find the right people to get it out there, because it definitely sells well. And I think once we get it in front of more people, then I think it'll take off, and which is even more exciting for me because half of my goal right now is to give the guys that I'm working with business, because they're in a part of our town and we're in a part of Connecticut where manufacturing left years ago, and it's a part of town where there's a lot of empty buildings, and I'd love to send a ton more business their way, and I think we can. And yeah, definitely getting some marketing to getting things moving is going to be key to that. So yeah, definitely trying to find an influencer and getting that social media going is something that we're working on right now.
All right. What have you enjoyed most about doing all this?
Oh, geez. Every one of those steps that I talked about, the 6 steps that we went through, each one has its heartaches and excitement, but I've got to say that as an engineer, probably developing the product, playing with the 3D printer, even making the design for the logo and everything, and giving it to friends and family to try out and play with and iterating on those designs, that was a lot of fun for me. But it's also really exciting now that we have the product on Amazon and seeing the reviews that come back and hearing from people, like I was saying, just friends that have kids saying how their kids love it, and the reactions that they're getting has been exciting. So yeah, probably those 2 parts, seeing people actually have the product and the initial development.
Tony, I predicted that you were going to say that you made a brand new friend there. It's called your 3D printer, man. You're an engineer, man. You got to love that. Didn't you always want one?
Do
you get enough of that at work?
It's one of those things where everybody that I know gets a 3D printer and then they say to themselves, well, now I can make anything that I want. It's just that they can't think of anything to make. I guess I was a little bit the opposite, where I had something that I already knew I wanted to make. So it was a convenient excuse to get a 3D printer. Let's put it that way.
Did you create this instruction manual yourself there?
Yeah, the artwork is all mine as well. I've got a lot of hobbies. Just last year, I took a photography class. Yeah, all of the design for the trademark, all the design for the instruction manual. Yeah, I did everything on this project pretty much myself. And, and that was part of it too, is I wanted to do as much as I could and for as cheap as possible. So we hardly spent any money to get this project up and off the ground. And it's been fun because there's all kinds of things that, hobbies of mine like photography and just sketching cartoons and stuff that I got to weave into this project.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. Thank you for this wonderful podcast. If it wasn't for your podcast and being able to hear from small inventors, then I really wouldn't be here. A lot of the tools and tricks all came from this wonderful podcast. It's one thing to listen to the big podcasts where they have the people that invented Facebook up on there. But for me, I love hearing these stories about small mom and pop kind of inventors that are forging their own small business. And that's what's exciting for me. And that's what was most useful for me. So thank you, Robert, for doing that for us.